Well, hi everybody. I started a few minutes ago, but the computer all of a sudden went blank and said low battery power, so we had to plug it in. So let's see now. Chapter 15 is coming up today. And first of all, well, let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. Hi to Jackson and Bangor, Maine. Hi, Jax. Matthew in Chapman, Maine. Marjorie in Palermo, Maine. Emma in Oakland, Maine. Malia and Lucas in Missouri. Kai Ming and Rukai in Seattle, Washington. Hope here in Maine. Hi, Hope. Sylvia in Maine. Leslie and Mary across the North Atlantic in England. Dylan and Lucas in Maine. And Ezzy and Indy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. I just happened to notice, looking at the screen in the mirror, over my shoulder is a clock. I don't know how well you can see it, everybody, but it's last summer. Roxy and I were in Campobello Island, off near Lubec, Maine, way down east, and there was a yard sale there. Very friendly people on that whole island, and that clock was in the yard sale. And I took one look at it and fell in love with it. It's a very pretty frame and bought it. I think I paid $1 for it. Hooray for yard sales. I don't know what we do without them. Anyway, well, chapter 15 coming up. Let's just take a look at two pictures first to refresh everybody's memory what some people look like in the book. I'll use the old fid here or the new fid for a pointer. There's Quacker the duck in the pond where the water didn't freeze because it was running too swiftly. There's Granny Fox. Now, let's see if I got that right here. Granny's doing a thing, acting foolish to get Quacker curious, so he'll come closer so you can try to catch him. Now, let's see, that's one. Let's just take a look at that other one when they're in the hen house. There's Granny Fox and Reddy Fox in Farmer Brown's hen house. That's Reddy. That's Granny with the glasses on her nose. And there are 4 or 5 hens up on the roost. They call them biddies, and some people call hens that lay eggs biddies. And it's wintertime. It's at nighttime, but they had to make it light so we can see who's in the picture. And there's a basket on the floor there, and there's a barrel over on one side under the window. Okay. And I think they're looking for a meal there, it looks like. All right. Now, chapter 15. Reddy fights a battle. 'Tis not the foes that are without, but those that are within that give us battles that we find the hardest are to win. That's from old Granny Fox. After the last of his 3 foolish wishes, Reddy Fox left the Smiling Pool and headed straight for the old pasture, for which he had started in the first place. He wished now that he had gone straight there. Then he wouldn't have seen the suet tied out of reach to the branch of a tree in the old orchard. He wouldn't have seen the bob whites fly away to safety, just as he felt almost sure of catching one. He wouldn't have seen Billy Mink bring a fine fish out of the water and eat it right before him. It is bad enough to be starving with no food in sight, but to be as hungry as Reddy Fox was, and to see food just out of reach, to smell it and not be able to get it, is, well, it's more than most folks can stand patiently. So Reddy Fox was grumbling to himself as he hurried to the old pasture, and his heart was very bitter. It seemed to him that everything was against him. His neighbors had food, but he had none, not so much as a crumb. It was unfair. Old Mother Nature was unjust. If he could climb, he could get food. If he could fly, he could get food. If he could dive, he could get food. But he could neither climb, fly, nor dive. He didn't stop to think that old Mother Nature had given him some of the sharpest wits in all the green meadows. Or, I read that sentence wrong, everybody. He didn't stop to think old Mother Nature had given him some of the sharpest wits in all the green forest or on all the green meadows. That she had given him a wonderful nose, she had given him the keenest of ears, that she had given him speed excelled by few. He forgot those things, and was so busy thinking bitterly of the things he didn't have that he forgot to use his wits and nose and ears when he reached the old pasture. The result was he trotted right past old Jed Thumper, the big gray rabbit, who was sitting behind a little bush holding his breath. The minute old Jed saw that Reddy was safely past, he started for his Bullbriar Castle as fast as he could. It was not until then that Reddy discovered him. Of course, Reddy started after him. This time he made good use of his speed. But he was too late. Old Jed Thumper reached his castle with Reddy 2 jumps behind him. Reddy knew now there was no chance to catch old Jed that day. For a few minutes he felt more bitter than ever. Then, all in a flash, Reddy Fox became the shrewd, clever fellow that he really is. He grinned. "It's of no use to try to fill an empty stomach on wishes," said he. "If I had come right straight here, and minded my own business, I'd have caught old Jed Thumper. Now I'm going to get some food, and I'm not going home until I do." Very wisely, Reddy put all unpleasant thoughts out of his head, and settled down to using his wits and his eyes and his ears and his nose for all they were worth, as Old Mother Nature had intended he should. All through the old pasture he hunted, taking care not to miss a single place where there was the least chance of finding food. But it was all in vain. Reddy gulped down his disappointment. "Now for the big river," said he, and started off bravely. When he reached the edge of the big river, he hurried along the bank until he reached a place where the water seldom freezes. As he had hoped, he found that it was not frozen now. It looked so black and cold that it made him shiver just to see it. Back and forth with his nose to the ground he ran. Suddenly he stopped and sniffed. Then he sniffed again. Then he followed his nose straight to the very edge of the big river. There, floating in the black water, was a dead fish. By wading in, he could get it. Reddy shivered at the touch of the cold water. But what were wet feet compared with such an empty stomach as his? In a minute, he had that fish and was back on the shore. It wasn't a very big fish, but it would stop the ache in his stomach until he could get something more. With a sigh of pure happiness, he sank his teeth into it, and then he remembered poor old Granny Fox. Reddy swallowed a mouthful, tried to forget Granny, but he couldn't. He swallowed another mouthful. Poor old Granny was back there at home, as hungry as he was, and too stiff and tired to hunt. Reddy choked. Then he began a battle with himself. His stomach demanded that fish. If he ate it, no one would be the wiser, but Granny needed it even more than he did. For a long time, Reddy fought with himself. In the end, he picked up the fish and started for home. Oh my gosh, that's the end of chapter 14. Well, we'll read chapter 15. Oh, wait a minute now. That was chapter 15. We'll read chapter 16 tomorrow.